Hello everybody and welcome to this webinar from Curo Compensation. My name is Ruth Thomas and I'm a Senior Consultant and Founder here at Curo, and I'm going to be taking you through this webinar today. We run regular webinars here at Curo covering best practice and also some sessions focusing on our best of breed compensation management technology. In today's session we're really focusing on data-driven thinking and reward. And there's been a lot of discussion in the last 3 years or so around analytics and the impact they're having on HR. But this session, I wanted to focus more specifically on how to leverage analytics and BI in the reward sphere. So in terms of our agenda for today, I'll start with some quick introductions to Curo and our housekeeping items before moving on to today's content. And then if we have time, I'll allow a short time for questions at the end of the session. From a housekeeping perspective, you are all on mute so that we can get through this session. And if you wish to ask questions at the end of the session when we get there, you will be able to type in questions in the chat box at the top of your screen where the Join Me panel is. If you just type in a question and then I'll try to answer that. If you don't feel comfortable doing that or you think of a question after the session, then please email those in to us and I promise to get back to you with any of the questions that you have. We're also recording this session, so we'll post a link to that onto our website, and we normally email that out to all participants in the session. And you can also request a PDF of the deck that I'm sharing with you today if you'd like to have a copy of that. So without further ado, I'll just go on to a quick introduction to Curo for those of you who don't know who we are. So we're an HR technology provider and we specialise in total compensation management solutions. So we're a best of breed provider in that sense. So we sit in the HR talent market, but we just focus on compensation functionality. We have over 60 clients globally, working across many currencies and countries, and we work with a growing list of partners who help us to extend our sales reach and with our implementation processes. And whilst we started mainly with clients in the legal and financial sector, we now have wide industry coverage across our client base, and our solution is truly agnostic from that perspective. And we have a very strong and growing client base who we work with, and you can see some of those names here. And if you'd like to find any more information about Curo, the people that we work with, any case studies, then do get in touch, or you can find more information on our website. So introductions over, let's move on to today's content. And I wanted to start firstly with this issue of the datafication of HR and what that terminology means. Well, HR, big data, datafication of HR, they've all been terms that have been bounding around for about 3 or 4 years now. There seems to have been a bit of a back step away from just focusing on the issue of big data. I think that was far too scary for most people and probably a tad ambitious at that stage. But there has been very much a focus on how to deploy analytics successfully in HR. And what has emerged is a realization that in HR, we really have had to catch up and to grasp the business opportunity that companies have to leverage their employee data in order to improve operational performance by leveraging their human capital. And that's really important when you think this is all set against a background of a war for talent, low employee productivity, and employee engagement. And I've included here on this slide 3 key statements which for me summarize what the goals are all about when it comes to using analytics within the HR sphere. So it's very much about providing insights for effectively managing employees so that business goals can be quickly reached and understood efficiently. It's about understanding the data that should be captured and how to use that data in order to predict capabilities in order to get an optimal return on that investment, that critical investment in human capital. And really, we need to start thinking about moving beyond the traditional soft HR agenda and to help our businesses create that sustainable competitive advantage that is so important today. And many HR software providers, as a result of this, are integrating data analysis tools into their HR platforms. There is a clear business case. There is a number of studies that have been undertaken. This one I'm referencing here is by IBM and MIT that showed that companies with a higher level and more effective level of HR analytics definitely were more successful in terms of sales growth, net operating income, and higher sales by employees. And I always like to use, when we're talking about analytics and data, I like to use this chart from Burson by Deloitte. Back in 2014, they did an in-depth survey as to where we were in HR in terms of using analytics. And these were the results, which they updated again in 2016. I do find these levels of reporting and the descriptors really useful. And I think probably, for you as an organization, either within the HR team or within the reward team, have a look at these and think about, where do I sit in terms of these levels of analytics and where do I want to be? But what this does show is, the majority of organizations were still very much at the low end of this ladder in terms of analytics advancement. Although the number of organizations between 14 and 16 that were using predictive analytics did double at that point. And I know there are many larger organizations who are looking at using predictive analytics. So I think that's where I wanted to leave it in terms of HR analytics. And what I really wanted to focus on today is how you can think about using analytics and BI in reward and why you should be doing that. And there are 4 key areas that I think that analytics are going to have the biggest impact. They're definitely going to change the way we operate as reward practitioners, and we need to think about how we change. They will undoubtedly improve the way we manage compensation data. They will help us with supporting new approaches to reward, and they'll also help on this journey of ensuring pay equity, which is also important at the moment. So let's start with that first point, the evolution of the reward role. So when I started working in HR over 30 years ago, the reward process was very much a finance and budget-driven process. And we acted as administrators in that process. And if I'm honest, we really provided limited value add at that point. Then in the late 70s, 80s, 90s, you had the advent of job evaluation, benchmarking, and performance-related pay that saw reward becoming more of an HR-owned process. And we developed ourselves as SMEs. Technology was starting to be introduced here, which did help to automate the processes, but the user interface of that technology was normally so poor that normally it was really only available to HR, and they're the ones doing the data entry and using those systems. So at this stage, it was very much about telling managers what to do rather than empowering them. Over the last 15 years, we've really seen this focus much more on empowering business managers to make decisions and giving them the data and information in spreadsheets or through online tools to help them make reward decisions and manage compensation budgets rather than HR doing that for them. And advances in technology and user interfaces of those has definitely helped here to make the process of decision making easier for managers. Now, with the advent of analytics and BI tools, and many of those being integrated into HR and compensation platforms, we can start to move to this next stage of evidence-based business enablers. So we can start to think about providing insight to our business leaders that focuses on business outcomes rather than just providing them with data. And that's very useful to think about in your own organization and how you can do that. Definitely the new ways of approaching analytics and BI are going to help to improve the way we manage compensation data. And I think this table here, for me, sort of summarizes the difference. And you can try and work out where you are in terms of these 2 scenarios. So previously, it was very much about metrics and reporting. It was about providing information to managers or business decision makers, often in multi-column spreadsheets and wordy guideline documents. And really, we were expecting decision makers to have to make sense of it. But what we're trying to do now is move to a place where we provide insight or decision support information to those business leaders so that we can directly show managers how the decisions they make will impact their business outcomes. So it's linking the HR data and the decisions they make to business outcomes. And this is much more future focused. So you can see it's much more about anticipating what might happen in the future, and not just focusing on data from the past and the present, but also data that might be useful in the future. And one of the key changes here is the use of data visualization tools and interaction on those tools to help us to present that information. Data visualization is really critical here. I think it's safe to say, as the saying goes, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and a story is often better told graphically. And there is scientific evidence that shows that we can process information easier graphically. Tables interact primarily with our verbal system, whilst graphs are perceived primarily with our visual system, and we can process data visually faster than we can through our verbal system. So we also now know that statistical information is abstract, and the new approaches to data visualization and analytics aim to translate this abstract data into the physical attributes of vision. And if you think about how much statistical data we use in compensation, with comp ratios, benchmarking data, historical comp data, FX rate information, budget analysis, total remuneration comp breakdowns, I mean, the list is endless. You know, we can definitely help to transform that data into more effective, insightful information. And those data visualizations also allow you to interact with them, so you can drill down into those visualizations to get to the underlying employee data. And one of the key things that we're trying to do here is to influence decision makers real time, and that's one of the most important points of this. So, you know, if you're running a compensation review, you want to show that your managers the real-time impact of the decisions that they're making, so that they can make the changes during the review period, and you're not left dealing with those post the review period in the moderation phase, which was how it tended to operate in the past. So it's about real-time decision making and influencing those decision makers. Another area that I think analytics and BI are going to impact us in reward is towards helping to support the many new approaches to reward that are coming down the line. Now, I'm going to mention a few here. Many of these new approaches, I mean, there is a long list, and I am formulating a webinar for January that will focus on this in its own right. But I am just going to mention these three today. So firstly, let's talk about this shift from traditional models of pay for performance to pay for talent as a way to join up the reward and talent management strategies going on in our organisations and take into account multiple factors, both past and present, that can capture an employee's value. So if you think about our typical pay for performance approach, we were normally calibrating these three key data points: pay, performance, and benchmarking data. If you move to a pay for talent approach, you start to introduce many more data points about an employee in order to capture that notion of an employee worth. And that is complex. So what you can do with better analytical tools and data visualizations is to easily calibrate that data to make it meaningful for decision makers. And if you can do that, you can help them to start to answer some really important questions that can help them to focus on achieving business outcomes and optimizing their compensation spend. And I've just listed a few of those critical questions. So it's worth thinking about, you know, do I support my managers with these types of decisions today or not? If I don't, what do I need to do that? Another type of new approach to reward, there's been a lot of talk, and we're seeing a lot more adoption from a performance management perspective of moving from an annual event to a process of ongoing assessment and ongoing feedback. And I think, you know, we are now starting to see potentially reward allocation happening on the same basis. So this is where some companies are now moving away from a fixed annual review, introducing things like spot bonuses, market adjustments, peer awards during the performance year. I know that probably sounds like a complete headache, and many of us moved away from that and that complete ad hoc process probably about 10 years ago or so, because it was so difficult to manage budget creep. But today, really, the technology exists to help track year-round allocation of reward, and we need analytics and BI to help us do that. It will definitely make peer-to-peer or market comparisons a lot more complicated, because again, we're going to have many more data points to correlate, and that's why it will be important to try and leverage better analytics. And finally, in terms of new approaches to reward, it is undebatable the fact that our workforces are becoming more diverse. We've got multi-generational workforces who are more global with different working patterns, and also more collaboration in team-based approaches and more skills-based roles and more non-typical career pathways. And these diverse workforces will require many more different reward structures. So whilst you can adhere to a common reward strategy and reward principles, we're going to have to think about paying different types of employees in different ways. And again, this adds to complexity and many more data points for us to bring together. And I'm not going to go into, I'm just showing you here a few of the types of pay approaches that are being discussed. And again, I'll cover these more in our upcoming webinar on the future of reward. But I guess the point to make is, it's going to get more complex, and therefore we need to be able to manage data about compensation and employees in a more effective way. And the final impact on reward is around ensuring equity, pay transparency, and risk alignment. So we've talked about workforces becoming more diverse, and pay equity as a result of that is going to become even more important. And we know, there is this growing amount of legislation globally seeking to drive pay equity. So how do analytics help you when it comes to pay equity? Well, data-driven decisions can reduce subjectivity by giving managers the information they need to make informed decisions. Now, I've said many times before, pay decisions will never be wholly objective, because ultimately it's decisions made by people about people. But if you give decision makers the right information, then you can help to reduce those levels of subjectivity. And you can help, therefore, to drive pay transparency as you increase understanding of why people are being allocated the levels of pay that they are. And as I said earlier, it's really important when it comes to pay equity to be able to show real time the impact of managers' decision making. So as they're actually spending their budgets, showing you what we've been doing at Curo in terms of integrating BI and analytics into our platform. Very much technology to date has been around achieving operational efficiency and making sure that you can manage your processes faster. It's also been about improving the way you manage those processes and improving the security of the way you manage those processes. The next stage in this evolution of technology is really about the wide-scale adoption of integrated analytics and BI, and that's about taking smarter to the next level. So solutions aren't just automating processes anymore, they're helping you to work smarter and extract maximum value from the compensation data that you're managing within the platform. And at Curo, we're calling this ITCM, or Intelligent Total Compensation Management. And what we've done, we've created an ITCM zone in our core enterprise product, and this provides visually persuasive dashboards to decision makers to give them real-time actionable insight. We've integrated here a leading analytical tool to help us to achieve that, and it now allows us to show to the users of our clients powerful benchmarking information, and easily allows us to calibrate key talent metrics to help make sure that reward decisions are fair and transparent. Our ITCM zone allows each view of the BI to be user profile specific, so you will potentially have a different view for your managers within the platform, as your HR practitioners or your reward specialists. And you are able to filter within each of the dashboards that we provide. You can hover and drill down, and I'm going to show you this in a minute. And you can export dashboards, and also all the dashboards can be color branded for your own organization. So at that point, I'm going to hop into a quick look at what we've done with BI within our core product, and show you how managers can access that information. So if we go into the main review screen within Curo Compensation, so this is the main action screen within Curo, where users come in to make pay decisions. While they're doing that, they're able to access this ITCM zone. And this is configured for each of our clients. So they will be able to choose from our library in terms of the information that they want to share with their users. And we have different types of information within this platform. We have traditional reporting type information, probably the type of information that many of you have been working with to date. So that tends to be list-based reporting. Our users can create their own reports, and those reports can be pushed out to different users, and they will obviously access those reports over the population that they have access to. But this is where the dashboards sit. So we've now integrated this product called Looker into our platform. And each of these dashboards, which you can choose to share with your users, are basically storyboards that allow you to share key information with your users. It's about focusing them on achieving those business objectives. So this first dashboard I'm sharing with you is a summary dashboard for the review. And it tells me, for example, things like how many employees are in the review, how the budget spend is going in respect of this review, and some of the detail as to the numbers of people that have had performance ratings, salary and bonus, and so on. I can change the filter of this review. So currently I'm looking at a review for staff, but I can change that to look at my executive population. And now you'll see the numbers change here. So we've only got 32 employees in our exec review process, and we've got 25 recommendations that have been made. And I can drill down into these dashboards to be able to look at the employees that actually sit behind that. So the dashboards are all configured to tell different stories. So this next dashboard that I'm going to share with you is focusing on the allocation of salary or merit during the current review process. And you can choose the different types of dashboards. They can be quite complex. You can show tables. So here, for example, I've got a table that's showing managers the combination of the output from the 9-box talent grid, and we have all employees with an attrition rating. And I can drill down into these to see who sits in any of the portions of these charts. So I can see the specific employees at the different points of the table information. I can also download the data from these charts. So I can select to download the data straight to Excel, maybe something I want to work off and do some additional analysis offline, or I can download the whole dashboard as a PDF and use that in reporting as I see fit. We're also using dashboards to help calibrate benchmarking data. So I've got a benchmarking dashboard here. So for example, quite a powerful dashboard we use is this pre and post review market position. So here, this particular manager can see before the review in purple, where people sat relative to the market zones that they've defined, and then where they sit after the review. And we've also got that similar split by gender, so we can start to focus on some of the gender pay equity issues that might be going on in our organisation. And as I've mentioned, equal pay, we also have a diversity dashboard or an equal pay dashboard. And here, we've got different information set up, looking at things, anything from performance rating distribution by gender, average salary increase by gender, and gender distribution by job band, and then looking at the actual gender pay gap figures for the employees in the review. So just to give you a quick flavour of how we're using BI within our product. So the idea is that, as they're making reviews, as they're making business decisions, managers have all this information that is real time. So as they make changes to the data within the review grid, all these charts will automatically be updated. So they're able to see real time how things are changing and what the impact of their decisions is. So just to conclude, really what we're trying to do is help our clients unlock the potential of their compensation data in order to drive business outcomes, and also move to the stage, I talked about the evolution of reward, move to this stage of being evidence-based business enablers and helping organizations to improve productivity and performance and reward and retain their key talent. And for us at Curo, it's always about helping organizations to optimize their compensation spend. So just a couple of checklists for you to take away. If you haven't done anything yet in terms of HR and analytics, this is where you might want to start. I think one of the biggest challenges we have in HR is getting access to data on our employees and the integrity of that data. When I talk to our clients at our client forum, many of them say the only point of time in the year that they feel really confident that their employee data is accurate is at the time of the annual review and at the time they process payroll decisions, because it's obviously critical at that time of year. So I think, we really need to start looking at where we keep data, how we store data, and what sort of data you think you're going to need to take your analytics to the next level. And then start thinking about what platform you can centralize that data into in order to support the analytics that you want to achieve. If you haven't done, then you want to potentially think about automating your compensation processes anyway, and think about building the business case to do that. And as always, I've talked about some of the future developments in reward. Don't always think about how you do things today. Think about how you might expect to do things in the future. And then a bit further down the line, well, I talked about big data at the beginning of this session. I think we all move away, or we tended to back away from big data. And I think really what we need to focus on in HR is focusing on small data. So getting analytics right, getting the data right, and providing a much better service to our businesses. By this stage, hopefully after 12 months, if you haven't done, you'll be able to implement HR technology to help you on this journey, and you would have successfully integrated your HR data sources. But another aspect you do potentially need to think about is reskilling your HR team, because we don't necessarily all have those skills within our existing HR teams. So you may need to think about buying in those specific skills in order, again, to help you achieve a better level of service. And as I said before, continue to think about future-proofing your reward strategy. So I think that's where I wanted to leave it today. If you want to get in touch, as I said, the contact details are here. You can find us at our website, curocomp.com. We're recording this session, as I said, for those of you who might have joined later in the call. So we'll share a link of the recording on our website. And if you wish to have a copy of the deck, then you can request a PDF copy. And if you have any questions about what we do or want to hear more, then please do get in touch. But right now, if anyone's got a specific question, we've got a couple of minutes. You can type that question into the chat box at the top of your panel. There's a little speech bubble. You can just type that question in, and if I see any questions coming in, I will answer those. Okay, so I've had one question come in. It's asking whether the ITCM zone that I just showed you is available now. Yes, it is. It's available in our version 4 product, and we have clients who are now currently working with that functionality and using that in their compensation reviews. Okay. All right, I don't have any other questions coming in, so I'm going to conclude the session there. Thanks very much for joining today, and keep a lookout for our next webinars that are coming up, and I look forward to hearing from you all at some stage soon. Thank you.